Be back with you all to bring you Bitcoin and politics today. I had a little bit of a hiatus, so to speak, because I had some other things going on, but I am excited to bring you the show that I got for you guys today. But before we get started, you know what? What's faster than a mining rig, more powerful than a piggy bank, able to compound your savings in a single click? It's a Bored Ape, it's a dig butt. No, it's RoundlyX. Hey, listen, go to roundlyx.com and start stacking sats with your spare change, folks. And you can even do routine automated purchases of Bitcoin and other cryptos because they partnered with the best exchanges around. If you go there, roundlyx.com, and sign up, you'll get $15 if you use the code Bitcoin Politics. It's time for Bitcoin and politics, folks. All right, folks, here I am in my comfy living room, how I wish. No, it's not really my living room. It's just a little backdrop that I've got, but it looks amazing, right? You know what? After I get done with this show, I'm going to go take a dive in that pool back there, get myself a little glass of wine. Hey, it's Thursday, folks. What else can you do? All right, let me get on with this show. Listen, the question becomes, will the U.S. actually elect a Bitcoin president? Now, we know El Salvador has a Bitcoin president, right? Nayib Bukele. That guy's got Bitcoin flowing all through El Salvador, and he's starting to show the world what it looks like to have a country run on Bitcoin. But now it's our turn. Let's see if in 2024 we'll be able to do it. All right, let's take a look at the candidates that we have. Listen, folks, the field is already flooded with folks, and it's just going to get even more crazier as we get closer to time for the election to actually get started. But right now on the Republican side, we have about 7 candidates. I think it is 3, 6, 7, 8 candidates. We've got Donald Trump. He's the former president. He is the guy that is still garnering most of the attention, even without him doing anything really, just the bad press he's getting. He's got 52% of the vote. Guys, listen, as Donald Trump has said, any press is good press, right? Even the bad press is good press. Why? Because we keep talking about him. We can't stop talking about Donald Trump. All right behind him, we got Nikki Haley. She's South Carolina former governor and UN ambassador. Will she be able to give good old Trump a run for his money? My bet says no. Then we got Vivek Ramaswamy. He's a candidate from Ohio, never held public office. He is what Trump was before Trump was Trump. Let's see if he'll be able to unseat Trump. Now, the interesting thing to know about Vivek is that he made an announcement right along with someone else at Bitcoin Miami 2023. He said, guys, I'm going to accept Bitcoin for donations. He's going to use the Lightning Network to do it. How exciting is that? Yo, Fibbo, what's up, my buddy? I'm glad Fibbo's here. I'll talk about Fibbo in a little bit. Then we got Perry Johnson from Michigan. Again, another no-namer. Larry Elder from California, another no-namer. Asa Hutchins, however, is a namer. He's the former governor of Arkansas. If you notice something, there's a theme here. Governors from the Republican Party are running to become president. Then we've got Tim Scott. He's the only senator so far, and he's from South Carolina. Notice, again, there's a trend. South Carolinians seem like they like to run. Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, and we've got Ron DeSantis. Now, he made a big splash yesterday, and I'll get more into him in a second. But what you also need to know is that Tim Scott, while he might not necessarily be a Bitcoiner like Vivek and Ron, he is working on crypto legislation currently in the Senate. All right, now let's take a look at our Democrats. Feels a little bit narrower and things a little bit more crazier. We've got the POTUS, the incumbent, Joe Biden, as Trump liked to call him, Sleepy Joe, as some of you like to call him, deranged, demented. We get it. Yes, the guy's old. Listen, I am not for having any more grandpas in the White House, but I digress. Okay, we've got Marianne Williamson from California, never held public office. She ran last presidential election cycle, didn't get anything. She's not going to get anything now. Then you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He is a wild card. Listen, when he jumped into the race to run against Biden, that was very interesting. He's from California. Notice again a theme on the Democratic side. The state of California seems to be running for president. But the interesting thing is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a true Bitcoiner through and through, and I'm going to tell you why in just a second. So this pushes me over to Bitcoin 2023 in Miami. Listen, guys, for the last 3 years, they've held Bitcoin 2020. They've had Bitcoin conference in Miami 2021, 2022, and 2023. All have had really good attendance. This last time, it was about half of the people that were there for 2022, which I was in attendance for. It was insane. So many people, so many activities, so much stuff to do. It was overwhelming. This time, it was probably more manageable, but the energy seemed a little bit low from the videos that I noticed. And some of the people that I talked to that was there said the same thing. They said, the attendance was a little bit low and the energy was a little bit low. But that's okay. They made up for it. Why? Because Bitcoin 2024 is going to be in Nashville, and I'll be in attendance once again. So I'm hoping that you guys will join us and come to Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville, July 25th through 27th. Make sure you're there. Okay. So there was 2 candidates that made their presence on stage at the conference this year, and that was RFK Jr., Democrat, and Vivek Ramaswamy, Republican. How great you get a bipartisan representation at the Bitcoin conference when it comes to politics. But as we all know, Bitcoin is apolitical. It doesn't care. It doesn't, as my good friend Phil Boswell say, it doesn't give a rat's ass about politics. It just doesn't. Bitcoin is going to go on no matter what. TikTok next block. And I'll make some comments about that too. So here's what you need to know. Here's what was said at the conference from RFK Jr. He said, our campaign will be the first presidential campaign in history to accept Bitcoin donations through the Lightning Network. And today, we move one step closer to the future. Today, we show the world the power, the durability, and the flexibility of Bitcoin. Spoken like a true Bitcoiner, RFK is embodying what Bitcoin really is, and he does it better than most. Now, on the other side, we've got Vivek Ramaswamy. He said, just announced, we're officially accepting Bitcoin donations. Give us $1. Let's make the 2024 election a referendum on fiat currency. There was a stark contrast between these two guys. When they gave their presentation, if you haven't looked at their presentations, it's linked right here on the slide. If you click on those, you guys will have access to the slideshow presentation. You will be able to listen to them at Bitcoin 2023 talk. And I would love to hear from those of you who watch this. What do you take away from both of their presentations? I'll tell you what I took away from it. Here's what RFK Jr.'s talking points were on Bitcoin. He had 6 points, and these points are phenomenal. And again, spoken like a true Bitcoiner. The first is he said he's going to defend self-custody. Listen, we all know that there is a war against self-custody. Our good friend, if you caught that, you know what I'm saying, Elizabeth Warren is going after self-custody. Listen, guys, we've got to fight against this. He said you should be able to hold your Bitcoin in your wallet and no one should have a right to do anything about it. This is what we need, a president that's willing to say this. His second point was to uphold the right to run a node at home. We all know how important nodes are when it comes to the Bitcoin network. Nodes are all over the globe. It is totally decentralized. Again, this is why Bitcoin doesn't give a rat's ass about politics, because it's totally decentralized and censorship resistant. His third point, defend use neutral and industry neutral energy regulation. This is, again, this whole ESG narrative, which is a bunch of malarkey. He is going to take and address that as well, and he's going to defend that. His fourth point was U.S. remains the global hub of Bitcoin. Are you people listening to what he's saying? Now, one or two things. Either RFK is just trying to get the Bitcoin vote, and he's lying, or he's a true Bitcoiner, and he understands this more better than anyone else. So, which is it going to be? We're going to tell as we get closer to the election. 5, Bitcoin is not a security, but regulation is needed. I would agree with him. Listen, we've already understood that Bitcoin is not a security because the CFTC said it so, and so did the SEC. Bitcoin has already been through the hoops on regulation. And if you look at most regulation, has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Has to do with all the other, yes, you know what that is. Yes, you know what that is. Fibbo Swanee says, why does it need defending? And I'm going to get into that, Fibbo. I guarantee you, this is exactly what I said. When you see this article, this is what I was talking about. And then lastly, and this is the biggest of all for me, guys. Listen, if you are not familiar who Ross Ulbricht is, you should. Ross Ulbricht is the person who created Silk Road. And he should not be in jail for the rest of his life for doing so. He didn't partake in doing any of the crap that's on Silk Road. He made a platform that allowed people to do those things. Listen, there's a lot of bad people that do stuff with the US dollar. Do you see anybody from the Fed going to jail for life? I didn't think so. Neither should Ross Ulbricht. And RFK Jr. said, if I get elected, I'm going to see to it that Ross Ulbricht gets pardoned. Folks, pay attention. If this guy gets in office, now, if he keeps his word, and we know politicians don't keep their word, that'll be the deal. Okay, so there was a video from Bitcoin University. Matthew Kratter, if you know who he is a hardcore Bitcoin maxi. And I say that in a good light because honestly, Matthew Kratter is not caustic. He is a serious Bitcoin maxi, and I appreciate him for being so. But he had a video talking about Bitcoiners, a powerful new political force. And I put a question mark because are we really a powerful political force? Listen, if every true Bitcoiner voted one issue, just if a presidential candidate was going to be a Bitcoin or not, that would be crazy and it would be amazing. But the reality is most Bitcoiners I talk to, even on the Bitcoin Politics Telegram, not everybody is a one issue voter. They just aren't. As much as we would like to say this and it sounds cool, nobody's a one issue voter. Listen, you guys care too much. There's too many other important issues. You can't just vote for somebody because they say they support Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense. I know I might get some blowback on that, but I'm just telling you guys, doesn't make sense to say stuff like that. Yes, I want to support someone in office who supports Bitcoin. But however, if they align with other values that I have that are important just as much as Bitcoin, then I'm going to vote them in. I'm not going to not. Now, the only way you're going to get me to not vote, and I'm sorry, I'll make this public, and I've said it to many people in private, and I'll say it publicly. You let the two candidates for this 2024 election be Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and you can forget about Paul voting. I just won't do it. My conscience won't let me. It's ridiculous. It's asinine. We've got to have better candidates than that, and I think we do have better candidates. Let them win. These two guys need to go. Sorry. Okay, let's take a look at the congressional legislation. This whole section of today's show is going to be powered by Capitol Crypto. My good friend, George Leonardo, he runs Capitol Crypto. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, you really should. Now, to our friend, Elizabeth Warren. So can Congress ban crypto? Well, CoinDesk put out an article, and it's talking about the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act that Senator Elizabeth Warren and Roger Marshall are pushing through Congress. It's the legislative equivalent to a Trojan horse, writes John Rizzo. It would effectively ban crypto in the guise of fighting money laundering. Now, again, if you listen and you read, did you see that say anything about Bitcoin? I didn't think so. Why? Because you can't ban Bitcoin. Andreas Antonopoulos says you can ban Bitcoin out of your country, but you can't ban your country out of Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin is decentralized, censorship-resistant technology that will last forever and ever and ever. And I know some people will probably tell me, Paul, you can never say never. I'm going to lean towards saying never say never. Why? Because Bitcoin has been running for 14 years. TikTok, next block, 99.999% uptime, has never went down. Even after China tried to kick it out of their country, guess what happened? Bitcoin continues on. Let the government, U.S. government, shut down Bitcoin. So there's other places the Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin will thrive, and it will continue going on. America does not get to dictate what happened with Bitcoin. And I hate to break it to Ron DeSantis. Sorry, Ron, but you can't tell me that if Joe Biden gets reelected, that's the death of Bitcoin. Ron, I thought you're supposed to understand what Bitcoin is. To even make a statement like that is playing nothing more than political games with the American people, and that's disingenuous. Stop it. Just stop it. This is going to be a clown show. It's going to be a circus show. And if they think that they can use Bitcoin to start getting brownie points, they shouldn't. And hopefully Bitcoiners don't fall for stupid nonsense like that. If I start hearing Bitcoin say stupid stuff like, if Joe Biden gets elected, then it's going to be the death of Bitcoin, then you're out of your mind. I'm sorry. Disagree with me or not, I'm not going for it. I'm not going to let a politician tell me something that I know is absolutely false. And that would go just the opposite. Had it been Joe Biden saying that about Ron DeSantis, I would tell Joe he's smoking something. Guys, don't play political games with Bitcoin. It's not fair. Okay. I do want to cover a few of the legislative pieces that are going through Congress right now that you need to be aware of. HR 1414, this is the Keep Innovation in America Act. This is sponsored by Representative Patrick McHenry. He's a Republican from North Carolina. And what this is about, it's narrowing the definition of a broker and digital assets for digital assets tax reporting requirements. If you remember, when we had the infrastructure bill and they signed that bill, it had very broad definitions of a broker. And basically, it would require everyone to submit tax documentation. Absolutely ridiculous. So this Keep Innovation in America Act is going to help correct that. It limits information that must be reported for digital assets, transfers between brokers and non-brokers, to information that is voluntarily provided by the customer and held by the broker for a legitimate business purpose. It directs the Treasury Secretary to study the impact of ITJA provisions that require digital asset transactions of greater than $10,000 to be reported to the IRS, like cash transactions. Nothing out of the ordinary. And if you look at this bill, widely co-sponsored, right? This is totally bipartisan. You've got Representative Richie Torres, Democrat from New York. You've got Warren Davidson, Republican from Ohio. You got Ro Khanna, Democrat from California. Tom Emmer, Republican from Minnesota. Eric Swalwell, Democrat from California. David Schweikert, Republican from Arizona. Darren Soto, Democrat from Florida. Fridge Hill, Republican from Arizona. Byron Donald, Republican from Florida. I had someone on one of my posts on Public 0x say something about how the Democrats, I think that's what he called them, Democrats don't support Bitcoin. Guys, it's not true. We have bipartisan support for Bitcoin across the aisles. Bitcoin, remember, is apolitical. It doesn't care. The next bill, HR 1460. This is the Crypto Asset Environmental Transparency Act of 2023. Sponsored by Representative Jared Huffman, Democrat of California, doesn't have any co-sponsors, and it directs the EPA to issue a rule requiring Bitcoin and crypto miners whose operations consume more than 5 megawatts of power to disclose emissions information. This is when craziness comes, right? This is clown town, right? You shouldn't do this. This makes no sense. Bitcoin's energy usage is 1% of the global energy usage. It's not even on, it doesn't even register, right? But they keep pushing this ESG narrative. Don't buy into this, guys. Just do not. And there are people out there fighting against this. So hopefully, and that's probably why he doesn't have any co-sponsors, because nobody's going to sponsor that bill. But you need to be aware of it. So if you live in New York, if you live in California, where Representative Jared Huffman is, please send him a message. Tell him, drop HR 1460. Okay, we got House Resolution 235. This is regarding the importance of proof of work mining. This is sponsored by Representative Pete Sessions, Republican of Texas, the great Texas state I'm from, Texas. He says, expresses that it is the sense of the House of Representatives that proof of work mining used for cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin, are important to the United States' ability to achieve its energy and economic goals. And once again, this is also not co-sponsored by anyone. And again, this whole proof of work mining issue is a touchy subject, and I think some folks are just not up to speed. Let's see if Pete Sessions can get somewhere with this resolution. And lastly, we've got Senate Bill 967, This is no central bank digital currency act and no CBDC act. I'm sure my producer Nick is going to love this because he cannot stand CBDCs. Even the thought, even the word, I think makes him shudder, right? So we don't want any CBDCs. And this is sponsored by Senator Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, and also two other Republicans, Ted Cruz in the great state of Texas and Mike Braun from Indiana. Now, I agree with him. We don't want a CBDC. However, will we get some version of a digital dollar? I believe we will. Why? Because the rest of the world is moving toward digital currencies. People, we will have to move toward a digital currency. The global reserve asset can't remain on paper and metal coins while the rest of the world is going to be using digital assets. It just doesn't make sense. And so my hope is that we'll have realistic digital dollar implemented that is not going to be big brotherish, authoritarian, rule our lives, rule our money, and hopefully we'll get something that's really good. Our producer, Nick, said he's a practical realist. I like that, Nick. Yes, I think you are a practical realist. He said even though he's against CBDCs to his core, and I know you are, and I understand you're that way for real reasons. People, there is a real and present danger to CBDCs. I've talked to Nick a lot about this. Talk to these guys, and I do understand. I am not one that's naive enough to think that, oh, let the government issue a CBDC. It'll be okay. No, it won't be okay. Listen, they can issue a CBDC, and it might sound good today, but what are they going to do in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? It will be financial handcuffs on the American people if we get something like that implemented, and we need to fight against that. We need to make sure we keep our eyes wide open on this, because we don't want to let a government put something in place that the children of our day today eventually become prisoners to in the future. And it's our responsibility as citizens to make sure that we're wide awake on this and that we don't allow the government to shackle us financially in ways that we just don't understand today, but they fully understand long term. CBDCs can do that. If they can program your money, that means they can tell you when to spend it, where to spend it, how much to spend it. It's way too invasive, right? We do not want them in our business that much. They shouldn't be. Our money is our money. We should have the right to do what we want to with our hard-earned money. Governments should not be able to control that. And that's my hope. So, folks, listen, while I'm making these shows a little bit shorter, I want to make sure I focus on a small amount of information so that I can keep your attention. I don't want to ramble on forever and ever, but these are important things. Bitcoin and politics, as much as Bitcoiners would like to believe, are separate, they really aren't. We still need to have a voice in what happens on Capitol Hill. My hope is that by listening to my shows, that you will reach out to your representative, understand who they are, call their office, talk to their staff in a friendly way. This is what George has told me many times. There it is, Cap Hill Crypto. He used to be the legislative, I think, aide or director. He'll correct me on that. But for Senator John Cornyn here in Texas. And he says, listen, be nice to their staffers because their staffers are overwhelmed. They're taking calls from all of us, all the constituents, and they're helping the representative understand what's going on. So the more we can educate their staff and their team, the better we will do as a public. So please get a chance to understand who your representatives are. Talk to them if possible. Hey, if you have the flexibility, go visit them. Call them on the phone, email them, interact with them on social media. I'm not on Twitter, but hey, interact with them on Twitter if you can. The beautiful thing about that is that the more we decide to work together as a people, the faster we can move forward. If we want to continue to fight each other on both sides of the aisle, then we're doing ourselves a disservice as a country because we're not going to move forward. When I was in the military, I used to tell the guys on the submarine all the time, listen, we have Forward guys, aft guys, and there was some rivalry between the two. The aft guys called us coners, which was clean our nasty engine room because we used to clean the engine room for them. And we used to call them nukes, right? Because they dealt with the nuclear reactor. But I used to tell them all the time, listen, guys, you're on the same boat. If this boat goes down, we all go down. Same thing for Americans. Listen, Americans, if this country goes down, and I saw sometimes some of you Bitcoiners seem like you're cheering on that fact, it's crazy because you're cheering on that you're also going to go down with the ship. I know some of you have jumped ship and decided to go to other countries and then you slam America. I get it. But at the end of the day, we really shouldn't do that. Talk to your representatives. Bitcoin and politics can work together. And I believe if we get a Bitcoin president, things change drastically. But do not make the mistake and think that I believe that whoever's in the White House can control Bitcoin. Cannot do it. Bitcoin will control the White House, if you ask me. And I think that's what we're starting to see. Why else are these candidates jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon all of a sudden? Because they know that Bitcoin is the hardest digital asset the world's ever seen. All right, folks, listen, in order to follow me, you can reach me on thecryptocurator.com. There you have access to links to all of the places to reach me, whether that's on Woobits, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's on, not on Twitter. I got off Twitter. Although I did listen to the tweet, to the Twitter live Twitter spaces yesterday with DeSantis. I didn't catch the kerfuffle they had at the very beginning, but I did hear the rest of it, and it was actually good. I think Ron DeSantis did a great job, him and Elon Musk. And I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not a DeSantis supporter, but I think the guy did a good job. On my site, you're going to see the top 3 news articles of the day. You're going to see a video, podcast, and then my shows are right below it. Please take some time to go there. Speaking of my shows, I am part of Bitcoin Live. Bitcoin Live is a massive community of shows that bring you so many different angles of this industry. Listen, I used to try to curate all the news. Can't do it. It's impossible. So I've narrowed my scope down to the top 10 digital assets. And even on LinkedIn, I've narrowed that all the way back down to just Bitcoin. But we have Gingerly. Those guys talk about a range of topics. 3D changes perspectives, deal with a lot of NFT information, as well as the more technical aspects of digital assets. And then you've got Matty Satz. His show is a phenomenal show you want to tune in for. And I think we got a couple more shows. So the Bitcoin Live family is growing. So please, whatever you do, ring the bell, like the video, share it out with your friends, give it a thumbs up, because it's important that we reach more people with our shows. So folks, I am so excited to be back. I will be back again next week with Bitcoin is Freedom. And I believe I'm going to put together a really good show for you guys there too. So until then, you guys have a phenomenal weekend, and thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.